Joining me today is DJ Mak 10, a.k.a. Nathaniel Ramsey, a prominent figure in the UK grime scene, known for his foundational role in the influential Nasty Crew.
Criminal activity, I would more say you could call it criminal activity. And when I tell you I came home and I could not even look in the mirror, I knew I was in trouble. I would turn into a completely different person when I used.
In what way?
I just wouldn't be a nice person to be around. You wouldn't want to be around me. There was no monetary gain in some of the things I was doing.
Was it just for attention?
Definitely.
Elliott Wald, addiction specialist. Come clean with me.
Hello, I'm Elliott Wald, addiction specialist, and welcome to another episode of Coming Clean with Me. Joining me today is DJ Mak 10, a.k.a. Nathaniel Ramsey, a prominent figure in the UK grime scene, known for his foundational role in the influential Nasty Crew, recognised for significantly shaping the sound and culture of grime music. But behind the frontage of fame, and for over 23 years, he has battled addictions to cocaine, alcohol, women, which at times have threatened to derail both his career and his life. Nathan's here to share his story of a life of grime. Welcome, Nathaniel. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you for coming here. I'm going to start this off by saying, first of all, I'm sorry I've got a bit of a strained voice today, but I didn't want to cancel on you. Sorry to people listening. And the second thing is, before we begin, I'm going to tell you from the offset, I'm 54 years old. I don't have a fucking clue what grime music is, but I've been watching you on Instagram, man, and I'm loving it.
Thank you.
So let's just start from there. So tell us about your family dynamics, childhood, and growing up in East London.
Family dynamics, well, I'm a middle child, kind of. 5 brothers, lost one. Dad's a drummer, mum's teacher. I grew up with brothers that was quite naughty, and I was just sort of growing up under that and trying to fit into the roles they played outside the house. Okay.
So you had some footsteps to follow because your brothers had a reputation, is that what you mean?
Exactly that.
I got it. And how old were you when you first started drinking?
Probably started drinking about 12 or 13. Yeah.
It was just the norm?
It was the normal because I was around that all the time within my household. Being my dad's in a band, there's Caribbean background. I grew up in my house. There was parties all the time. Not all the time, but we would have blues parties. There's a lot of drinking and smoking. It was just part of the culture.
I get it.
That's how I looked at it anyway.
Okay. I mean, I've got friends that grew up like that. I get that. The parents smoking weed, they're drinking a couple of Tennants, some Cavassier, some Hennessy. I know all that. Yeah, I get that. Okay. And what drugs were you exposed to as a teenager?
Just weed, really.
Okay.
Yeah, just weed. Just weed. And then I did see some other stuff. Like back in the day, it was trips.
Oh, yeah.
And things like that. I never tried any.
You never tried a trip?
I knew what they were.
Did you not? A bit like me, right? I never tried a trip. I've tried many things in my life, and I've never tried a trip. And I'll tell you why I never tried a trip.
Yeah.
I never liked the idea of taking something that I couldn't just stop. Why did you not want to take a trip?
Probably the same reason. And I didn't like the fact that there's the stories I used to hear about tripping, of literally being out of your mind, hallucinating, let's say.
Yeah.
I didn't like the idea of that.
Same as. I want to be able to stop when I want to stop.
Well, yeah.
You know, I don't mean you can stop taking, but what I mean is if I'm out there in another world, I want to come back when I want to come back.
Yeah, no, I heard that.
Right. Your brothers were quite known for antisocial behaviour. They were a bit of an influence in your criminal activity, I've been told by the researchers. You want to tell me about that?
Well, when I say criminal, it depends. Criminal activity, I would more say you could call it criminal activity. But my stuff was just being a nuisance.
Okay.
Yeah. And what's the word I'm looking for? I was just being a nuisance. Like I would act out in a way where I would there was no monetary gain in some of the things I was doing.
Was it just for attention?
Definitely. Like, looking back now, that's where it started. That's where that attention seeking started and looking for acceptance.
Yeah. Well, did you say 5 brothers? Is that what you said to me?
Mm-hmm.
And one of 5 brothers, I'm guessing you probably want to stand out a little bit.
Yeah, at first, I mean, I was probably the youngest. There was a stage when I was the youngest, but when my other brothers come after. So when I was doing all that stuff, and they was a lot younger than me, so I got exposed to a lot more than what they got exposed to. Even they potentially might have got exposed to some of the same things, but I definitely got exposed to a lot more, and at a younger age.
Yeah, and music always played a big part in your life. And when did it evolve into a DJ career?
When I was about 15.
So a young age.
A very young age, yeah.
And what sort of music were you into at that age?
Garage. Well, it was drum and bass when I was about 13, 14. But when I started DJing, it was the tail end of the jungle era. And then I started in garage.
Okay. And how did you get into the grime music? And can you just tell me what grime music is?
Grime is a derivative of garage.
Okay.
Yeah, so garage has garage MCs, yeah. And jungle had jungle MCs, and then grime come along, and it was a way of the youngsters of that time, so people from my generation growing up, they had a bit more to say. They wasn't rapping, so they would rap on grime, which was a version of garage that was a bit more hardcore.
I think I've got it.
A bit more gritty. So
gritty.
A bit more gritty, and they could say a lot more that wouldn't be accepted in the garage scene at the time. They would speak a lot more, they would rap a lot more, and their lyrics was a bit more intricate.
Okay. Because when I was discussing you actually with my son and his friend, because obviously I'm of a generation not knowing grime, and they are, and they started to read some things about you, and they're like, oh, he's played with this guy, he's played with that guy.
Yeah.
Just throw out some of the DJs that are knowing that you've done sets with and
Well,
stuff.
MCs.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's MCs, I beg your pardon. 54, fucking forgive me.
It's all right. There's some big DJs as well, but I say MCs, like, the crew that I was in, it's called Nasty Crew, yeah, and that had Kano, DWE, Gets, Hyper, Sharky Major, Armour, Stormin', and then obviously I've worked with Dizzy Rascal, you know, Jammer was part of another crew. Worked alongside most people, Skepta, all of these, like Wiley.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And when and where did you first start Try the Packet?
Boy, I think 16 or 17, around that age.
How did that come about?
You know what? That come about from the music. Well, I say that now, but even when I first tried it was through music. I've got a friend who his sister's boyfriend DJs, and he sort of took us on a party bus, like going to one of his gigs, and then I think I tried a pill first, and then it went from a pill to try and pack it, and then from there I just started picking up little bits, and then before you know it.
How quickly did it take you from first using to it becoming a regular, not a problem, but a regular occurrence?
I'd say about 4 or 5 years, if I'm honest, because I feel like it got, when I was doing it regularly, I was about 21, 22.
Right.
Yeah.
It's funny, isn't it? Because that's the progression, right? I mean, yes, occasionally there are people that I've come across, and there are clients that I've seen, and there are people I've spoken to,
Yeah.
who straight away with it using it kicks a grip, but that's rare.
Yeah.
I would say 2 years, 3 years. That's the pattern where you think it's all good, it's all fun. Oh, well, I'm having a good laugh. It's only on a Saturday, and then all of a sudden you notice it, right?
I didn't notice it though.
You didn't notice?
No, I've noticed it now, looking back, but because my experience is that whole time period, that 23 years, was a blur. It's like when I went into recovery, I realised that all of that 23 years didn't even make sense. It's like they didn't even exist. So there was a point where I was using because I was making money and I thought it was all right. And then obviously I knew, I'm up for 3 days or 4 days or whatever. Is that an issue? Probably. But I didn't think, like, the insanity of my thinking was, I didn't think that it was that bad still. Like I had a problem, if that made sense.
Yeah.
I was enjoying it. Like I liked it.
I get it. It was a laugh. It was fun.
Yeah.
3 days of no sleeping, I can recover. You didn't sit there and go, hang on, 3 days I've sat there doing gear and doing nothing.
Yeah.
You just went, it's all right.
Yeah, and it's mad to say now and to even speak it out. I'm listening to myself like, but that's the truth. 3 days up, and I might the last day feel like crap and probably be in a bad way, but then give it a day, I'm laughing about it, and then I'm doing the same thing again.
Of course, I've recovered. Yeah. I'm no longer suffering, and it's all good fun.
Yeah, I forget about the bad part of it.
Yeah, because that memory. What happens is when you've used and you're abused, right, that memory is quite profound. It's like, I'm not doing that, I'm not touching that, I'm not doing it. And then over a period of time, that memory starts to delete itself and delete itself and delete itself. Yeah. And give it a day, 2 days, 3 days, depending on your usage pattern, you've forgotten all about it. Yeah. And there you are doing it all over again. Yeah. But what was interesting about what you said was this. You said, when I was making money, I was doing it, I was making money. And I'm wondering, right, because if you look at the movies and stuff like that, you always see the people who are being successful out there racking it up. Do you think you had an association with making money, being successful that you could use?
Potentially. I would say this as well. That obviously there's another substance that comes from packet,
Yeah.
And there are people around who use that.
Yeah.
And obviously now I don't discriminate against any substance. To me, they're all the same. But I used to look at that particular one and be like, no.
I get it.
See how detrimental that is. But this one seems a bit more. This is the classy thing.
You can say that other drug.
Yeah. Oh, I don't say that. What?
But I know exactly what you're talking about. You're the first person I've had on a podcast that said that to me. Yeah. It's like, I can do the sniff, but I ain't smoking it because that's another level, right?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
Even if I'm doing it for 3, 4, 5 days, even if I'm doing it for 2 weeks later, a week later, the day after. But if I do that, that's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, it's exactly that. I mean, it's a perception, and I feel like packet is a bit more socially acceptable, even though it's become more common now than even when I was doing it, and even before I was doing it was probably more uncommon. But that was my perception at the time, is that it's all right to do that one because it's a bit more classy. But
I agree. And did you need alcohol to use, or did you dry sniff?
Always alcohol.
So alcohol was your gateway. You never used without alcohol?
Never. Sometimes, but very, very rarely. Yeah.
And if you did use before you drank, you'd always go and get alcohol?
100%.
You needed to level yourself out.
Level out, and to when everything's done.
Yeah. You said to my research, you said you loved taking the packet. Can you elaborate on it and why and how it made you feel?
You know what, I want to be cautious about what some of the things I say, because obviously I'm in a relationship and that, but some of this stuff...
I get where you're going to go. I get where you're going.
So, but obviously with me, my association was around women and stuff.
I get it.
When it came to that.
I understand.
So it turned from me going to a party or to a club, let's say, and just doing whatever socially to me in a room.
Yeah.
And then it became some form of...
Funky chicken, I call that. I call that the funky chicken.
Oh, what's that mean?
Funky chicken. It means like, the woman's all trussed up like a chicken doing things you wouldn't normally do, and you're swinging from the chandeliers, and you're like, Tarzan, you're like, whoa, I'm coming, baby. I'm coming towards you. And she's there like tied up, upside down, hanging from a bit of a string. And you're doing shit you'd never do, right? That's the kind of stuff you're doing when you're off your nut. I get it.
No, that's what's going on in my head.
I did that.
Listen, that's what's going on in my head. But the reality is not the same.
Exactly,
the
right?
The reality of it.
You think you're in your head, you're like, done that, right? There she is. Whoa, here we go. Funky chicken time, right? And the reality is, it's like you start chatting for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
3 hours later, you're an eighth down. You've done nothing, and she's leaving.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, nothing's happening.
It's true, right?
Yeah, nothing's happening.
Like in your head, you're like this like stud, but in reality you're just like no,
is not. But yeah, I've had to do a lot of stuff around that as well, a lot of work around that behaviour as well, because to me I look at that as part of my addiction.
Yeah, I would say that the majority of addictions have an extension of an addiction, and that is, women, that is for other people, drinking, that is for other people, behaviour. For some people, going to fight at football, all different things.
Yeah.
But for you, I understand where you're going with that. And when you started, your usage, I'm guessing, was social, but then over a period of time, did it become you on your own?
Yeah, 100%. It became me on my own. It became me on my own probably that about 6 years, 7 years in. So it became like that because I would turn into a completely different person when I use.
In what way?
In a way where I become mute. I just wouldn't be a nice person to be around. You wouldn't want to be around me. And yeah, just to even think about it, I can understand why. And I would feel really paranoid. So I wouldn't want to be around anyone either.
Very paranoid.
Very paranoid.
What sort of paranoia were you experiencing?
I would hear things, see things, assume things, do people's thinking. I would assume someone's, just by looking at someone, I'll be thinking what they're thinking.
Were you the sort of person standing by the front door with a knife hidden behind your back? I've heard these things,
Yeah, no, I've heard that, but no, I did always assume that police was coming for me.
Oh, that one. Yeah. Someone's coming through my door.
Yeah, always police for no reason. Well, some reason, not a recent reason. Do you know what I mean?
I understand.
Or something not so serious. I'm just some reason, please.
Yeah.
That was my.
I mean, yeah, it's true. And how did you fund your addiction?
I had ways.
Listen, there's no judgment here, my friend.
Yeah, no, I had ways.
Be serious, be honest.
Yeah, no, I'm being honest.
Come on.
I'm being honest that there was dishonest ways of me.
Okay,
yeah.
You did whatever you had to do to get your thing.
Yeah, but I didn't tell myself that's what I was doing. Obviously, I was doing this because for a certain lifestyle that wasn't real. It always boiled down.
It's a facade.
Yeah, 100%. And it always boiled down to, I'm partying. Basically, so I wouldn't say I was out there doing it just for that, but looking back, huge amount of my actions was because of what I was doing.
And in the height of your addiction, A, how frequently are you using, and B, what sort of quantity were you using?
Do you know what? I went through different stages of buying like maybe an eighth, and then an eighth. And then I was just doing that, and then an eighth.
In one night, or
yeah, I'll do an eighth, and then the next day I was thinking, and then I'll call another eighth.
Because you're a binger. You're a binger, right?
Yeah. Then I went into just getting tickets and there's tickets and tickets to tell myself if I don't get that much, I won't do as much. But then I end up spending more money. So then
I'll only buy 2 tickets. I won't buy an eighth because I'm not going to spend that kind of money on an eighth when I won't use it. And then you end up buying more and more and more and more.
Yeah.
On a binge of what, 3 days is what a binge was?
2 to 3 days.
What sort of money would you be spending?
It depends. It's all different times.
Between X and X.
I could have done £300 a week. I could have done £1,000 a week.
Wow. How much money you had is what you spent?
Is what I spent, but there's times when I've done more than that.
There's times when you've made a bit more money in a way that you didn't respect the money, I'm getting a feeling, and therefore you can blow the money.
Yeah.
Is that something?
Yeah. There's some things I won't touch on.
No, I understand. But what I'm saying is, listen, when you go to work and you graft for money, right, we have a little bit of respect for money. We've all done bad things, right? There's no judgment here. We've all done shit, right? When you work your arse off, you respect that money.
Yeah.
But when that money comes from other means, that you just flip that money, you blow that money. Listen, I've got a lot of clients of mine that serve up big time, right? Yeah. And they say to me, I'll go and blow £1,000, I'll go and blow £500, I'll go and buy this watch for £3,000, right? That money isn't sitting in their bank investing, going, I'll buy a property, I'll buy this, it's going to make money, I'm going to invest in a business. That money is flitted away because they didn't graft. That's the kind of money you're talking about.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, definitely that. And also what comes with that sometimes, I would always have good intentions for some of the things I was doing. Like, it sounds mad, but I would be using dodgy money to try and set up a business or to try and do this or to try and do that. But it would always fall apart because of my habit. So when I say that, I would go out to try and do something, but it's never going to work. I might last a month, might last 2-3 months, but my habit will always get the better of me.
Yeah. And how much do you think you spend over your years of addiction? Come on, put a number on it.
A lot.
Okay.
All right.
Put a figure on it.
Over 23 years.
Yeah, 23 years. I'm going to give you some background, right? I asked this to DJ Pat Ross.
Yeah.
And I think he said to me 300 grand. I asked this of Jumping Jack Frost, and I think he said, well, his answer was different. His answer was, not necessarily what I've spent, but if I looked at missed opportunities, gigs I didn't turn up for, countries I was supposed to go to, things I was supposed to do. And he went probably about 2 million. Yeah. So when you think about it, there's a difference between what you spent and lost opportunity.
Yeah.
What do you think the total of what's cost you over 23 years? Give me a number.
I don't know if I want to say this.
Say it.
Just because.
Say it.
I don't want to say.
Say it, man. Come on, let's get something out of you today.
I don't want to say.
Less than or more than 1 million?
Less.
Less than or more than 500,000? Oh, that answers my question. Thank you. Okay. Let's get back into that paranoia. What level of paranoia did you experience, and what sort of things would happen during this binge? Did you ever see insects? That's a common one. No?
Not see.
A lot of people say to me, I see spiders on the bed.
No. I wouldn't hallucinate. I would hear things though, and assume there's things in the room and those sort of things. Yeah, I'd just make up like mad scenarios, whole scenarios, movies, if you like, in my head about situations that's going on. That just wasn't real. That's all I could say.
What was the final part that happened that made you go, I've got to do something about this now. This is it. This is it. I know we all have that come through us through our lives. Oh, no, I've got to do something. And then you get back on it and I've got to do something. But there reaches a final point where you go, I've got to do something about this now. What was that for you?
So my final point wasn't even that bad compared to some of the things that I've done.
Okay.
So it was just I say a minor incident. The usual thing I would do is I would have a drink. I'll leave the house at, say, 10 o'clock, and then I won't come back till 9 o'clock. I would have been driving.
10 o'clock in the night, and you come back at 9 o'clock in the morning?
9 in the morning. I would have been out driving, all of that. And then I could just come home, and it was at a time when I was needed at home, let's say.
Okay.
So when I got back this specific day, something just hit me, and I was just like, I've had enough. But it was at a period when my mum and my missus was trying to get me into rehab anyway. But I was only going for them.
Yeah. So
when this happened, I decided, let me pick the phone up and answer myself, and then that's when I ended up going to get help.
That's really interesting because, look, people who love you and care for you want you to get over the addiction, right? But there are times when we don't see that we have a problem, and that's what you're saying. And then you woke up and realized you had a problem.
Yeah, and I also know, well, if I'd gone, there was like a space of a week or 10 days that if I'd gone when they wanted me to go, I probably wouldn't be sitting there today because I didn't want to get clean. I was getting clean for them. But when that incident happened, that even though it was so minor, it wasn't minor, by the way, but it was minor in comparison to the things that I was up to. That is the difference between me being clean and me still being out there, because I wanted to do it for myself.
I call the people that you use around, and I know using follows this pattern. It starts off that we do it socially, we do it with other people, we do that for a long, long time. Mm-hmm. And then eventually, in the majority of people, we may still do it occasionally socially, we may not, but it's usually on our own, right? So I get that. But my question is, when you stopped and you finally stopped, what did you do with what I call your tribe? What did you do with the people around you that you socialize with or see? What happened? especially at your age in that industry, in that music.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this was a difficult thing for me at first. I mean, I went to treatment. I didn't tell anyone I went to treatment.
Oh, you didn't tell anyone?
No, I didn't want anyone to know, so I thought I was just going to go. But I knew that I had to separate myself from the people I was around. So I just didn't tell them, and I just went treatment. I'd done that whole treatment, come out, relapse and all of that. I'm going off.
We'll come to the relapse in a minute because I want to pick
All right, cool. So basically, I don't put myself around people I used with, is the short answer.
So anybody you've used with in the past, you don't put yourself in that situation?
No, I don't go around them. Like, some of them are close friends I'll speak to on the phone, but I won't go around anyone or anywhere where I've used or anything like that.
And how have they reacted to you? Because the difference is they don't see what they're in. And I'm not disrespecting them, because who am I to tell them what's right or wrong? I'm not doing that. But what I'm saying is, when we're in it, we were both in it, right? Yeah. When you're in it, you don't see it.
Yeah.
If other people are still in it, it's very hard for them to comprehend. What do you mean you don't want to come around? What do you mean you don't want to be? You don't have to use. Well, what do you mean you don't? Once a week, once a month? What's the big deal?
Yeah.
How have they reacted to you?
Exactly that. I think they don't understand what it takes and what I've gone through to get here, and they can't see their own actions. But I can only manage myself and control that. I can't control anyone. So it's quite dangerous as well at the same time, because without the knowledge of recovery, I could easily give in to that and go there and put myself in a situation. But I've learned that I can only control myself and my actions, so I just know not to do it. In regards to them doing that, I don't know what to say. I don't know.
I don't mean should they do it, should they not do it? What I mean is, how have they reacted to you ghosting them, for want of a better word?
It's
in a respectful way.
Yeah, not some are supportive, some ain't.
Okay.
Some are supportive and some ain't.
Have you been surprised of the people who are supportive and then disappointed some of them who haven't been? Has it been surprised you, or did you anticipate the ones that were going to be supportive and not?
A lot of the support have come from people that's not as close.
That's interesting. Yeah. What do you put that down to?
I don't know.
Do you think they think that you've let them down by getting sober and clean?
I've got no idea, and to be honest, I don't care.
That's good.
Yeah, I don't really care
because you've moved on.
Yeah. I can't care because I can only just focus on me, innit? Like, if someone don't understand it, I can't. It's not my problem.
You're 10 months sober now, correct?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
A bit of a distance, but anyway.
Yeah.
Listen, 10 months, here you are today, right? I know you had a relapse, and we'll go on to that just for the listeners, because it can help them. But 10 months, right? Imagine yourself here, 10 months clean and sober now.
Yeah.
And you look back at your old self 10 months ago. What has changed between now and then?
Wow. Do you know what? It's like night and day. It is like I was at a time where I didn't care about who I hurt, whose money I took, if I saw my kids or not, if I cheated. I just didn't care. I'd say do whatever I wanted to get whatever I need. Gift of the gab, talk anyone out of anything if I wanted it. No wasn't even I didn't even hear no when it came to when I wanted to get what I need. So now I have a bit more respect for people and myself. I definitely had no self-respect in hindsight. Definitely not. Didn't respect anyone else's feelings. I was just a mess. Complete mess. I'd lost complete trust from everyone. Like in the active addiction, and completely like oblivious to what I was doing and making myself right. Like just living it in complete like blinkers on, nothing. And now all those feelings have come back. You know, I've got trust, I've got career, I've got my family. People find I'm responsible. You know, I turn up, like I got self-respect, all of these things. And, you know, it wasn't about nothing of these things I lost or had, like money or none of that shit. All that stuff is irrelevant to me now. All I want, honestly, is peace of mind. My family to be able to look me in the eye. I can look them in the eye. You know, the thought of going back and not being able to look my kids in the eye is a whole different thing. And I just want to say one thing as well, because you spoke about that thinking of, you know, when we spoke about the 3 days, and then you think about it and it goes back.
Yeah.
Like recently, like I'm 10 months clean, and I just want to say this because there may be someone else who's going through something, and I had to ask a question to someone else that's in recovery, because I still get thoughts now and again that it wasn't that bad. You know, that can still creep in.
Yes.
And I speak to people who maybe 10 years clean, and they will say back to me, look, that's just a natural thing. It can happen. It's just a thought. It will try and get me like that. So those thoughts have happened to me 2 days ago, and I was like, why is that even coming into my, you know, into my head? But
I think the answer is this, because if that's a question, I'm going to answer that as a question.
Yeah.
I'm going to take it as a question.
Yeah.
I don't know you asked someone else, but I'm going to answer that question, what I think. I think what happens is this. If you go back to when you first used, like real back in the day, not the first time, but like when you started getting into the pan, and we enjoyed it. We had a good laugh. We were out. We were partying. We were young. We recovered. We get up in the morning. We went to work. It didn't affect our lifestyle, right? Yeah. We always remember that. We're like, I'll tell you what we're like. I've got a very, very good friend of mine, and he's a gambler, right? And he doesn't want to deal with his gambling addiction. He's never asked me for help, and I've never turned to him and said, you need help, because who am I to say that? But this guy will go into the bookies, and he will tell me the times when he went in with a 50 quid and he came out with £500. He came out of a monkey, right? But he will not tell me the times that he went in the bookies with a monkey and came out with nothing.
yeah,
And that's what it's like. You don't remember initially all the times that were rubbish. You remember all the good times, all the fun times. And then you think to yourself, well, if I had good times then, those odd times in those 23 years that were a good laugh, or in that last 5 years that were a good laugh, because there will be some occasions that were, right? I wouldn't mind doing that. I don't want to do it once every day. I don't want to do a 3-day binge, but if I could use once a month, I don't mind using once a month, or if I could use once every 2 months, it's not a problem then. How about I use on a Friday every 2 months? And I think every single person, not every single, I can't speak for every single person, but I can speak for myself, and I can speak for a lot of other people who I come into contact with, literally hundreds and thousands of people, who would say to me, I love that concept. Wouldn't you like that concept? If it caused you no addiction, if you only use once every 2 months and never touched it again, wouldn't you like to be like that?
Now,
Would you, if you'd never touched it again, if you could only ever touch it for 1 gram once every 2 months, doesn't that concept somewhere inside of you still go, ooh?
thought of that scares me. Now, are you saying it to me?
Yeah, I'm saying it to you now. Yeah.
No way.
But it scares you now because you know that it will escalate all over again.
100%.
But if you truly believed you could go back to using once every 2 months, the majority of users will grump that, right?
Yeah.
The problem is they can for 1 to 2 months, but then it becomes once a month. Then it becomes once a week. Then they're back where they were all over again.
Yeah.
You get it?
Yeah.
And that's what you're afraid of happening. And I respect that because we don't want that.
Yeah, I know firsthand that's what will happen.
It's happened before. Talk to me about the relapse.
So, I went to treatment and I learned obviously about what I'm suffering with, but I wasn't listening. So I've gone into treatment. They've told me there's free food, free gym. I'm in the gym. I'm dabbing up in steroids, if I can say that. But yeah, I'm dabbing up in there.
I've been there. I used to compete.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I know the story.
Yeah, so I'm in there. You know what? With me having an issue around acting out around my relationship and that, so I'm in there, and I'm in the gym. I'm getting clean. I'm loving life, and I'm just all over the place. I'm basically the same person, but without the drugs. Yeah, And for me, that don't work. I need to change a lot of things. So anyway, I've ended up not listening. They told me not to go out so soon. I'm back in the clubs. I'm walking around with my, like, look at me sort of thing. Next thing you know, that obsession come back for me to try. So like, just have a drink or whatever. And then it went from the minimal amount you could get of packet, I did. And when I tell you, I came home and I could not even look in the mirror. I knew I was in trouble. And I knew what was going on those whole 23 years and what I was running from in that one moment. But it didn't stop there. I sort of had a period of stopping and going back, like going to where I need to go to get help. And then it just went out of control really quickly. I'm not talking...
Did that surprise you?
Yeah, because it surprised me because it took me straight back to square one. And I wasn't using a lot. I was using the bare minimum, but it wasn't about the amount. It was about how it made me feel.
Exactly that.
It was.
Let me explain this to you, right? This is how I say it. Imagine you've got this wall behind, it's a white wall, right?
Yeah.
The first time we paint it, it gets a base coat, right? The next time you paint it, it's got a second coat. Yeah. Now, if you don't paint that wall for 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, and then you decide to give it a coat of paint, you don't need the 2 coats previously to get the finish.
Yeah.
You only need the top up.
Yeah.
That's what happens. You get a top up, bang, you've already primed yourself. You're already back where you were so fast. That's what happens.
Worse, actually.
Worse,
way worse. Mentally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's a question for you, because when you DJ or MC, forgive me.
DJ.
DJ now, well, I'm going to call it. MC's when you do the business, right?
Oh,
DJ's when you play it.
Yeah.
I got it. When you're doing that at social events or where other people are taking the packet, how do you deal with that?
I haven't come up against that yet. Wait, I'll tell the story. Actually, there's a place called, I'm not going to say its name, but you go there, it's like a studio.
In what area?
DJ, they're all over the place.
Okay, like a studio for recording.
Yeah, for recording.
Got it, yeah.
And and I've gone to go toilet and they ain't locked the door and they're just in there racking it up, do you know what I mean? And I just, I said, what are you doing? Lock the door, man. Yeah, I was like, and then he's like, and then I waited for him, he went and I just went to toilet. And all of that. That's the only time I've seen it since I've been in recovery. And
did that phase you?
No, it didn't. I've done so much. Like this time round, as long as I do what I'm meant to do, I feel like I'll be safe around. I wouldn't put myself around it, but if I saw it, I know just leave or whatever. But I've not experienced that. People have offered me the alcohol, but obviously I don't think.
You lost due to your addiction. What do you think if you go back over that 23 years, that you're now in a much better place, a completely different person, but what do you think you lost? Forget the money. What did you lose in terms of things you would have had in your life or situations?
This is an untold opportunities, and like I said, just myself within that. And I'm talking about using from the age of 17, I got completely lost. Like, mentally, emotionally, I hadn't grown up. You might as well say I stayed that age. Yeah, in my mind, like my thinking and everything. So I just.
How old are your kids, if you don't mind me asking?
My oldest is 25, and I got 3 grandkids as well.
Okay, so my oldest is 27 and 25, and I always think to myself, if my daughter or my son got into the packet, I'd be devastated. Because I know how hard it is to get out of that hole. I don't care what else they do, but that's one of the things in my life that I so badly do not want them ever to do, because I know how hard it is to get out. If your son was going through that, what would you say to him? What would you do? What explain to me?
Honestly,
yeah,
I'd.
Or do you feel like you can't say anything?
In my heart of hearts, I know there's nothing I can do. That's the honest truth. I can only lead by example, because I know what the power of addiction is. No one can't tell anyone to do nothing. If that person don't want to do it or is not acknowledging that they've got an issue with their self, it's going nowhere. I can pick him up and put him in a rehab 20 times, and it's not going to happen. If he don't want to come and say, I need help, it's not going to happen. And that's the reality of it. It's sad, but it's the reality of it.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
If you could go back and tell your younger self something now, what would you tell your younger self?
Ask for help.
Is that what you say?
I'd say ask for help. I'd say you need help.
We're afraid to do that, weren't we?
It's not, my experience wasn't, I wasn't afraid to do it. My experience was I didn't think I had a problem.
Yeah, I didn't know I needed help.
Yeah.
I didn't know I needed help.
Problem. Well, saying I can say, I think this is a problem, or yeah, I'm doing this a bit too much. But for me to turn around and say, I'm an addict, I need help, it's mad.
Yeah. Listen, I asked this very last question. It's been an absolute pleasure, by the way. I asked this question to all my guests. Anyone listening to this right now, and I know you said about your son, listen, you can't tell them anything. But if you could offer up one piece of advice to someone listening to this who is a follower of yours of grime music, or just as this listening to my podcast, or wants to get over their addiction, what one bit of advice would you give to somebody listening?
Ask for help. Ask for help. Yeah, just ask for help.
That's it.
That's all.
DJ Mak 10, thank you for coming.